In today's video, we're going to be taking a look here at the upcoming pattern. We do have a few, and I would say probably 3 or 4 major low pressure systems that are going to be moving in through the Rockies into the plains and mostly towards the Great Lakes. Later on in the model run, though, we are going to see a lot of these low pressure systems take aim further east at the East Coast, even impacting the southeast. We talked about this yesterday, where these areas have had a relatively quiet pattern. Actually, we're going to see things pick up quite a bit for them in the long range. So let's watch for all of this, and we're obviously going to take a look at the severe weather at the end of this video, as we always do. Let's start with tomorrow on Tuesday, April 30th, and what we see is that there is quite a bit of precipitation up and down both the Gulf Coasts and then in the interior eastern states like the Appalachian Mountain Range here from Tennessee, Kentucky, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, up through New York, and a bit of New England as well. We are seeing some showers and thunderstorms prevailing there. There's going to be a trend here that we're going to be watching for, and that's explosive low pressure systems just moving in from the Rockies. Some of them will originate here a little bit further northward, like Wyoming. But for about a month now, we've seen all of our low pressure systems pretty much coming from this Colorado area and moving in a kind of easterly, northeasterly direction from there into Kansas or Nebraska. So let's watch very closely for that. We get a more north-based one there out of Wyoming for tomorrow into the next day. And we see that this one actually does drag behind a little bit of a cold front. It's a 999 right there. We see a little bit of a drag in cold front, so some chance of severe weather underneath that. Also, the chance for isolated to scattered thunderstorms up and down the eastern seaboard, all the way from Florida up through Maine, will be possible for tomorrow into the night tomorrow, so Tuesday into Wednesday the 1st. By Wednesday afternoon on May 1st, we do see this low pressure system starting out for Colorado, the first of this kind of low pressure system at this point. Cold front out to the east of things, so we are seeing some thunderstorms developing here, potentially. That might not be a cold front now that I'm seeing things, and it could just be a lot of this humidity and moisture, as well as a lot of warmth moving out ahead of things. But overall, thunderstorms could be possible here from Texas northward all the way through Nebraska. Let's take a look here at Thursday on May 2nd. And what we see is that this low has moved up into Iowa here, just as we've kind of pointed out. Secondary low underneath for Texas, and overall a dragging cold front look with a little bit of a warm front out to the east. So expect continued warmth and humidity here for the eastern states, with some cooler air trying to move in behind this low. But what we'll see here by the time we move towards Friday is that these lows, what they want to do is they want to move here through the plains and then almost move directly north from there. So that's why we're seeing a lot of the activity, first off, dodge the eastern states, and second off, why we're not seeing these cold fronts just continue eastward and cool down the east eventually. What we're actually seeing is the cold fronts kind of dissipate as they move towards these areas, and we only see the cold air really spread for the central states. Keep in mind that we still have quite a bit of thunderstorm activity, both from the south central states up through a lot of the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes there on Friday the 3rd. Saturday the 4th here, what we see is a bit of thunderstorm activity now, once again, kind of regaining some steam across a lot of the plains here into the north central states as well. So for Minnesota, South Dakota, Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, down through Texas, a lot of thunderstorm activity. Not only that, we do have a lot of East Coast activity once again happening all the way from Florida up through about New York and everywhere in between there. And then we have our next line of activity moving into the Northwest. So lots and lots to discuss here for this first week of May. Let's take it towards Sunday on the 5th here. And again, activity basically from the Gulf Coast all the way up the East Coast. And we're seeing a little bit more of it starting up here for the Northwest. Even still, some snowfall for Washington, Oregon, Nevada, California, Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming there. We actually do see a low here over Wyoming. So again, Wyoming and Colorado seem to be the hot spots for these lows to originate. And we're seeing one now for Wyoming. And that one kind of moves almost directly northward from Wyoming up into Montana. It is very strong, though, at a 987 millibar low pressure center. And I could see the case for some interesting severe weather just to the east of it here for states like North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, and Nebraska. But things do change in the long range, and let's see if this strong low develops and maybe heads just a little bit further eastward and stays further south. we could see a lot more severe weather implications underneath it if that is the case. So that would be very interesting to see. By Tuesday here on the 7th of May, what we see is this is a 989, so still relatively strong. Has a bit of a cold front look out ahead of things, and we see severe weather possible from Canada down through a lot of the Great Lakes and Midwest, Ohio Valley, and even into some of the plains there. Now let's take this towards Wednesday on the 8th of May, and we see even more snow and cold for the Northwest. Canada, Washington, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Nevada, Colorado, or better yet, California, and then Oregon there, seeing a lot of cold and snow. We have a low in between Wyoming and Colorado there. And we have warm air really, really prevailing in the east, especially due to this colder air that is set up over the northwest. This is going to be a negative PNA, and this is going to really encourage that ridging here that we're seeing in the east. Not only that, but we have another Wyoming or Colorado low forming here on Wednesday. And into Thursday, we see that this one doesn't have as much of a kind of northern turn. It actually just keeps heading eastward. It's down to a 992 better yet, over Nebraska. Cold front wanting to form underneath, warm front out here to the east of things, and definitely this would be an intense setup, but it is 240 hours out, so take it with a grain of salt. Total precipitation due to all of this is still a lot for the plains, just like we've been seeing, but look at how far east this is spreading now. We're seeing this starting to get close to the East Coast, and I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of return to a central and eastern states, basically everywhere being in high activity. They've been very quiet along the eastern seaboard for a while now, and I expect that to kind of take a turn back in the active direction, as it always seems to flip-flop and never stay too long in the same pattern. But anything can happen, of course. The most activity is going to be for Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma here, maybe even up through Missouri and Iowa, as well as Minnesota. We're seeing a lot in this corridor here, kind of pretty close to the Mississippi River or just west of it. We're seeing a ton of precipitation there, and also the northwest, like Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. We're seeing quite a bit there as well. Temperature pattern is going to be a bit of a flip-flop, of course. Let's just move through it. We have warmer temperatures in the east here, colder temperatures out west. Again, the warmth wants to hold on in the east. We finally start to cool down maybe a little bit by like May 9th, 10th time frame, so about 10 days from now. And we really, really turn things around by this point, according to this European AI model. We get a positive PNA after the 10th of May, with cooler air really, really moving in by this point. And this would be a nice kind of cool down, although by May 11th, I would say that we're still quite warm, even with below normal temperatures. So, you know, this is a good 12 days from now. So the average temperatures continue to climb day over day. Probably climbing a degree about every 2 or 3 days. So definitely a considerable climb is happening this time of year in your average temperature. So these below average temperatures mean less and less and less by the day. And that's why I'm stating that. As we keep going, we see that cool air continue, and this would be a little bit more substantial, these greens. That's going to be 10 to 15 degrees below normal if this was the case by May 14th. So that would be more indicative of something that you would maybe notice, okay? So this is much more like 60s and 70s at the highest for a lot of these areas, maybe even cooler up here for the Midwest. So definitely this would be a little bit more considerable. But this is very far out at almost 15 days and something that we definitely want to take with a grain of salt. The West Coast begins to cool down here, according to this model, around that 14th, 15th time frame, and that should push this warmth eastward. We can't get any further here on this model, but I'm assuming that that's what would happen as a result of what's happening here at the West. And by the way, if you guys don't watch the videos daily, we are using this European AIFS, which is the European AI model here for the temperatures. We've been kind of experimenting with using it, and we are tracking the accuracy together here on the channel, which is very exciting, to see if we maybe use this more in the long term. Considering it's the European model, which is the best model, plus it's learning and improving itself using AI, I can't imagine that this model is going to be bad at all. So definitely exciting to see what's going to come of this. Let's quickly go over the severe weather. It's going to be a little bit more minimal than what we've been seeing. We see this general thunderstorm risk area for the Northwest and Rockies here for the rest of tonight on Monday the 29th into 6 a.m. on Tuesday, April 30th. So only a little bit while longer from probably when you're seeing this video. Also, a lot of the kind of Ohio Valley down through the deep south area, some of the northeast, some of the Great Lakes as well. Kind of a confusing shape there, but all of these areas are general thunderstorms with no severe weather expected, although anything is possible. The three darker green areas that we're seeing here for southern Texas, portions of the Gulf states, and then portions of Michigan are going to be your level 1 marginal risk area, where we do expect isolated severe weather to be possible in there. Day 2 gets a little bit more intense. We have the general thunderstorm risk here for a bit of the northwest, a lot of the plains and Midwest, and then a lot of the east here with a little kind of divot of nothing. This could change, obviously, as that's a pretty specific feature there, but that's kind of funny. But again, all these general thunderstorm risk areas could have severe weather, but it's not expected. The thunderstorms are expected for these areas, though, to be possible. Your darker green area from Texas, Oklahoma, through the rest of the Midwest and plains there that we're seeing. Again, that's your level 1 risk area that's called marginal, and that's where we expect isolated severe weather reports to come in. And then your yellow area there for a bit of the northern plains and some of the Midwest there is going to be your slight risk or level 2 risk, where we expect a little bit more scattered severe weather to occur. Day 3, which will be Wednesday, May 1st through 6 a.m. on Thursday, May 2nd, it does look quite similar. Again, eastern general thunderstorm risk area, another one here a little bit further west, and then we actually have one here for a bit of the Rockies. These are all, again, your general thunderstorm risk area. The darker green area for the plains, once again, especially the southern plains, is that marginal level 1 risk area. And then your yellow for the Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska regions there is going to be your slight risk level 2 area, where we get kind of that scattered about severe weather. This is day 3, so things could come up from here. Keep that in mind as well. We don't have any extended outlooks here for you today. I'm sure, obviously, as it's only the end of April into beginning of May timeframe, we will see much more of these outlooks over the coming months, obviously. Anyway, be sure to subscribe. We do upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it, leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.